Miles Morales has existed for over a decade, but do you ever feel something is missing when you read his comics? Despite being a distinct character who has broken barriers in representation, Miles has struggled to step out of Peter Parker's shadow in the source material. He felt like a rehash of Peter Parker. Reading his comics always felt like a never-ending cycle because Marvel writers don't know what to do with him. But then Into the Spider-Verse happened and suddenly Miles felt like his own character with his own identity. Today we are examining this bizarre dichotomy, how the same character can feel so different across mediums, and what the comics can learn from the movies. From the very beginning, Miles Morales was built on a foundation that would ultimately become his creative prison. Marvel's editor-in-chief back then said, "When we were planning Ultimatum, we realized that we were standing at the brink of America electing its first black president, and we acknowledged that maybe it was time to take a good look at one of our icons." Right there, the problems of Miles Morales began. When Miles was introduced in 2011, he wasn't designed as a brand new superhero with his own unique identity. He was explicitly created to be the replacement Spider-Man after the death of Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe. This fundamental problem set Miles up for years of creative constraints. Think about it. Miles did not choose to become a hero based on his personal goals or path. He became Spider-Man because there was an opening that needed filling.
Hey, phrasing!
From the start, he was a reactive hero, slipping into someone else's shoes rather than establishing his own path. In the early Ultimate Comics issues, Miles is constantly living in Peter Parker's shadow. He's measured against Peter by every character he encounters. Even the way he gains his powers feels like a carbon copy with slight variations. What's particularly frustrating is how Miles' unique abilities have been consistently underutilized. His camouflage and Venom Strike powers could have been the foundation for a completely different style of Spider-Man, one who approaches problems and fights in ways Peter couldn't. Instead, these powers often feel like afterthoughts, occasionally used but never fully explored as central to his heroic identity. The weight of Peter's legacy becomes a literal storyline burden for Miles. After his mother's death, Miles abandons being Spider-Man altogether, unable to bear the responsibility of living up to the mantle he inherited. This storyline perfectly illustrates how the constant comparison to Peter Parker actually prevented Miles from developing his own reasons and methods for being a hero. Would it have been possible to introduce Miles in a way that acknowledged Spider-Man's legacy while still giving him room to be his own hero? The evidence shows that it's possible, but these limitations were imposed on the character by a creative approach that prioritized continuity over innovation. The fundamental problem with Miles in comics is that he was created to fill a void rather than exist independently. When your entire reason for existing as a character is to replace someone else, you start with a handicap that's difficult to overcome, and this has limited Miles from day one, preventing him from reaching his full potential as one of Marvel's most promising new characters. After Marvel relocated Miles to Earth 616, they positioned him alongside the hero he was supposed to replace. Essentially, they decided to run with two Spider-Men at the same time. The new scenario established Peter Parker as Miles' mentor. In the process, this well-intentioned relationship created a fundamental power imbalance that has plagued Miles' stories ever since. Despite Miles' accomplishments, he's always the junior Spider-Man in the Marvel universe. He doesn't graduate, he's always the student. What's particularly frustrating is how the comic systematically prevents Miles from surpassing or even equaling Peter in any meaningful way. While other legacy heroes like Wally West eventually stepped out of Barry Allen's shadow as a Flash, Miles remains trapped in Peter's web. He's still fighting Peter's villains and playing into the world of Peter Parker. If you've watched Batman Beyond, you'll see that Terry McGinnis wasn't just fighting the same old Batman villains. Yes, some of them made appearances, but they were more in the background than the major villains in his rogue gallery. This isn't the case with Miles Morales. Characters like Gank Lee have shown tremendous potential, but they are rarely given the space to evolve into the kind of rich supporting characters that define Peter's world. This leads us to the release of Into the Spider-Verse. Now, when this movie was announced, there wasn't any buzz because the general audience had lost their trust in Sony Animation. After all, the movies leading up to this were just...
Oh my god, bro. You are worthless.
The answer to whether two Spider-Men can be equally important came from an unexpected place. Not from Marvel Comics, but from an animated film that transformed everything we thought we knew about Miles Morales. Into the Spider-Verse didn't just make superficial changes to the character, it completely rewrote the relationship between Peter and Miles, creating a framework where Miles could truly stand on his own. What makes Spider-Verse approach so compelling is how it acknowledges Peter's Peter Parker's significance while refusing to define Miles merely in relation to him. In the movie, we are introduced to the ideal Spider-Man, the one that has it all, the clean-cut, world-famous icon. He has everything, even promising to train Miles. The film makes the audacious decision to kill him permanently in the first act. This forces Miles into the Spider-Man role through necessity, but crucially gives him the space to accept this responsibility on his terms. When an alternate universe Spider-Man appears, the film brilliantly subverts the mentor-mentee dynamic we've seen in the comics. This Peter isn't positioned as the definitive Spider-Man showing Miles the ropes. He's a washed-up, divorced hero that's lost his way. Their relationship becomes reciprocal, with each character learning from the other. Unlike Miles in the comics, this mentor is explicitly temporary, preventing permanent dependence. The film anchors Miles' heroic journey in his complex family relationships, particularly with his father and his uncle. These connections aren't just background elements, they are central conflicts that shape his decisions and growth. This continues in the sequel Across the Spider-Verse, where Miles must challenge the concept of fixed destiny while the sport lurks in the background. Miles grows into his role as Spider-Man even while he struggles to find balance. He's much more independent, and even in a society full of spider people, his defiance of the rules of the Spider Society makes him stand out in a sea of spiders. His character arc is brilliantly summarized in these lines.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'ma do my own thing.
Spider-Verse also brilliantly recontextualizes Miles' abilities as expressions of his identity rather than just cool superpowers. His invisibility becomes a physical manifestation of his feelings of inadequacy, and his Venom strike represents his untapped potential. Details like this is what makes Miles a more efficient character than the comics ever did. His artistic expression through graffiti isn't just a throwaway trait, but a crucial element of how he relates to his city and expresses himself. These aspects of Miles aren't treated as diverse checkboxes, but as essential components of what makes him unique. What would it take to truly free Miles? First, he needs his own space, not just narratively but geographically. Imagine Miles protecting just Brooklyn, or even relocating to another city entirely. The possibilities open up for what writers can do with Miles Morales instead of just repeating Peter Parker stories with Miles in front. The separation would force writers to develop villains specific to Miles' environment rather than recycling Peter's role gallery. His villains should challenge not just his powers, but his worldview as a young man navigating modern America. Marvel has successful templates for legacy characters. DC's Wally West evolved from Kid Flash to a Flash that surpassed Barry Allen in many people's eyes. Jon Stewart developed from backup Green Lantern to a character with his own distinct philosophy and approach to wielding the power ring. These legacy heroes thrived when creators stopped treating them as junior versions of their predecessors and started exploring what made them unique. But despite these positive steps, Miles still remains fundamentally trapped. He's still operating primarily in Peter's New York. He's still facing villains that have no connection to his unique perspective and navigating a world where he's perpetually the second Spider-Man. The multimedia success of Miles presents a perfect opportunity for Marvel to take these bold steps. Just as the MCU has influenced comic storytelling, Spider-Verse has shown a path forward for Miles that resonates with audiences. The blueprint exists. What's missing is the commitment to follow through. A truly independent Miles Morales wouldn't just benefit the character, it would open doors for new readers who connect with Miles' journey and the hero Spider-Man in a broad sense. The future of Miles Morales looks promising. He's had a great character arc in Spider-Man 2, and the next chapter of his story is already taking shape. Saladin Ahmed's ongoing solo series represents a commitment to authenticity that fans have been craving. The nuanced characterization is exactly what's needed to elevate Miles beyond his creative constraints, and we can't ignore what's on the horizon, the conclusion to the Spider-Verse trilogy. This stands as perhaps the greatest opportunity to continue the character evolution that made the first two films so great. The story of Miles Morales reminds us that legacy characters don't have to be carbon copies or junior versions of their predecessors. When given the room to become their own heroes, they enrich the superhero landscape. The journey to get Miles to this point hasn't been perfect, but it seems the road ahead finally has the potential to let him swing freely on his own terms. Thanks for watching. What do you think of Miles Morales in comics and in film? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.